Hi, gang. It's Patrick.
And Adam.
Coming up on today's episode, we dive into some listener feedback and share how you can contribute to efforts supporting those affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. We cover the latest Disney news, and we review 1998's Mulan as part of our ongoing series, Take Two. As always, we close out the show with some quick D. All that and more on today's episode of Gays Do the D.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Adam Twinkerbell Hummel.
I'm not prepared. Patrick Margaret Kazuki.
Margaret, that's a great name. I love that name.
Maggie. I mean, you've got a nickname option there, too.
I would fully go by Margaret.
It's so harsh.
Absolutely.
Margaret.
I'm a stern woman.
Yeah, you are.
Well, Adam, I see you're trapped in the closet again.
I'm back in the closet. It just felt like the right place for me to be.
Yeah.
I can't handle this world anymore. I've decided to just shelter myself in the closet, both physically and metaphorically.
I like that. You're doing your part.
Yeah. I'm doing a part. The part of a straight man again, I guess.
Fair enough. We should say to all of our listeners at home, this is our very first full episode of Gays Do the D, that we are not in the same place at the same time. We were recording over Zencastr and using our phones with FaceTime to sort of get some cues from each other.
How does it feel so far, Patrick?
It feels real weird. It
really does, doesn't it? It feels strange.
Yeah, we're just kind of getting down and dirty. If you hear dogs barking or Adam shuffling chords, that's just the way we're going to have to operate right now, folks.
Yeah, and the reason that we're doing this, as I'm sure many of you are dealing with this as well, we have been given the order from our governor to shelter in place. At least that's what it's called here in Minnesota. I know some places call it safe at home. And there's all these different references to what's going on. But for the next 2 weeks, we have been heavily encouraged to stay at home unless the absolute essentials are needed.
Right. For me, that's trips to get vodka.
I was thinking, how are you going to handle this? Are you well stocked?
I was 2 days ago. And now it's all gone. It's all gone, Adam.
Matthew is well stocked for the time being, but he's gone nuts with these Aperol spritzes. He will not stop drinking Aperol spritzes.
Yeah, as far as I can tell, he's having 5 or 6 a day, which is great. I have no judgments.
Yeah, he's gone full housewife of Minneapolis.
It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
For sure.
Well, as I mentioned before, we are using Zencastr to bring you this sort of dual recording. I don't know how you would call that, but basically it's a platform where you can record over the phone or over your computer when you're not in the same room. We've used them before when we recorded our episode long ago with Deke Sharon, and of course when we did an episode with the Broadway Husbands. We like it. We've had some success with it, and because they know that everybody is quarantined right now, they have graciously sort of opened the gates to allow easier access to their platform, which is an awesome thing to be doing right now, to sort of giving back to their artists in the community.
Yeah, I think a lot of podcasters are taking advantage of Zencastr right now because, quite frankly, there's a couple options out there. There's like Skype recording, and at least Zencastr has given everyone the ability to kind of record these episodes with unlimited data.
Yes.
Which is great.
Yeah, and they're super easy to use too, where it's sort of I don't want to call it a basic platform, but it requires not a lot of knowledge of how to use it. And we don't have any knowledge at all. So we're doing just fine.
Yeah, we have none to spare for sure. So this is the easiest for us. And yeah, it's been great so far. So if you do hear any clicks or beeps or weird moments of digitization to our voices, that's not even a word, but you know what I mean. Please forgive us. we're doing the best we can, and we're just happy to be able to get this episode out to you and spend some time with you this week.
That's right. That's sort of our plan going forward. As long as we can, we are aiming to release episodes on the regular. Who knows? Maybe we'll release a bonus episode or two. Who can say? While we unravel mentally, things could get weird.
Yeah, they're going to get weird, all right.
They're going to get weird. Speaking of weird, Adam, we have some listener feedback. Just kidding. But we do have some listener feedback from one of our favorite Patreon members and Tweedledees, Auntie Myrna. She wrote into us in regards to last week's episode of Paul and Bart's Trip Report. Auntie Myrna says, while down for Disney Race Weekend, our first night, Nick and Dave made our crew reservations at California Grill. We had no idea what to expect, except for the fact that we could watch the fireworks from the rooftop. We arrived shortly before sunset. The views, with a lot of exclamation marks. I highly recommend arriving before the sun descends. I found myself just being in awe of the 280-degree views. The food and service was next level. Yes, I wrote that in happy screaming caps. As Bart and Paul said, we were quite chilly for the watching of the fireworks. However, every human spectating was so into it. It was worth the chilies. All that to say, make it a must-do or see. You won't be disappointed. And then she goes on to say, OMG, Bart and Paul, I was in tears with your love of Disney as adults. Don't ever change. Those words and emotions were certainly needed during this time of isolation. Thank you for being guests, and thank you, Adam and Patrick, for continuing to give us something to look forward to. XOXO, Auntie Myrns.
Oh, thank you so much, Auntie Myrns. It was so great that you took the time to reach out to us, and we really appreciate your thoughts on California Grill.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We absolutely loved recording with Bart and Paul. They were a treat, and we miss them dearly. We can't wait to have them back in the studio so we can see any human being at all in person right now.
And if not, we'll make dolls of them, and we'll place them on the couch, because that's not creepy at all. And Patrick, you can be Bart, and I'll be Paul's voice, and everything will be great.
Yeah, that'll match up quite nicely.
Well, we should also take this opportunity to remind our Tweedledees out there that a lot of people are really struggling right now. I know a lot of people have either been furloughed from their jobs or completely lost their jobs due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And we just wanted to mention again this week that a coronavirus relief fund has been established by Crooked Media, where your donations will be spread equally to support those who need it most and to groups providing critical support during this time, including Feeding America, Meals on Wheels, No Kid Hungry, National Domestic Workers Alliance, Restaurant Workers Community Foundation, CDC Foundation, Direct Relief, and to the homeless. There's a link on the page that's been established for you to look up shelters near you, and you can donate directly to your neighborhood shelters. You can find all of this information on gaysdothed.com. If you go to the website, at the top ribbon, you'll find a coronavirus relief tab. If you click on that, it will take you directly to the Coronavirus Relief Fund page.
I love this. I'm so glad they're doing it. And just to mention again that your donation will be spread equally across all of these, which is such a wonderful thing. So no one is getting more or less than somebody else. However, that being said, if you do have one in that list that speaks more to you, please feel free to donate directly into that organization. Every dollar is going to be stretched very far right now.
Yeah, Patrick, there's so many organizations that need our assistance right now. So if there wasn't one that was on that list, find one that really speaks to you and just donate. Any donation, I'm sure, will be greatly appreciated.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Before we move on, Adam, we should mention to those at home who are not part of our Patreon family yet, what on earth are you doing?
What are you doing?
Just kidding. Just kidding. But for those who don't know, we do have a Patreon page. You can go to gazedothed.com and click on donate, which will bring you to our Patreon page, where for as little as $1 reoccurring a month, you will have access to some special episodes of Gaze Do the D, raw and uncut.
Raw and uncut.
I love it. I love it so much. We just, in fact, recorded our next raw and uncut episode in which Adam and I revealed to each other a curated list of Disney drag names that we've come up with.
Curated.
Yep, we're artists, Adam. We are a museum of drag names.
That sounds so chic. It sounds like we might be like in the Hamptons in a small shop, like a small Hamptons shop of curated drag names, Disney themed.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about, Adam. That's where we are right now.
And I'm wearing like a wispy white tunic over some crisp white pants.
Oh, and I'm wearing a bedazzled panty.
Okay. I was going for more of like a Nancy Meyers vibe, like a very Diane Keaton stylish movie.
I was not going for that at all.
No,
I won't be changed, Adam. I won't be changed.
I know. I'll keep trying though.
Good luck to you.
So for all of you patrons out there, thank you so much for your support. And you have a brand new episode waiting for you if you've not already heard it. And for those that are considering becoming patrons, I mean, the quality of the content, the quality
is second to everything.
Second to every single thing in your life.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Well, before we head into the news, Patrick, we need to mention that in our very next episode will be one of our most popular segments. That's right, kids. It is a Questions and Peter Pantsers segment. So for those of you that have not submitted a question for Patrick or me, what are you doing? It's time to get those questions in, because on next week's episode, it's time to answer all of your questions.
And we know what you're doing. Nothing. You're not doing anything right now. You're at home.
That's a great point. Yes.
You're trying not to have an argument with your significant other because they keep watching Netflix shows without you. It's very rude.
Matthew is watching Tiger King in the living room right now, Patrick.
Without you?
Without me.
Do we need to pause recording so you can go watch Tiger King?
I mean, we're going to have some words later, that's for sure.
Fair enough. So yes, please send us your questions. Again, about anything about Disney, about our personal lives, about how we get personal on Disney rides. I don't know. Is that a question?
Get personal.
You know what I'm
Disney
saying.
rides.
You know what I mean. Adam, tell the Tweedledees where they should send their questions.
You can reach out to us on social media. That is, of course, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at GDTD Podcast.
Or you can always send us an email or voice memo to info@gaysdothed.com. Adam, I have a question for you.
What's that?
What's going on in the news?
Patrick, I have a Peter Pantser for you.
Oh, good.
A lot.
Oh, okay.
A lot.
So much news.
We have a COVID-19 update for you. Last week, Disneyland Resort and Walt Disney World Resort announced they will remain closed until further notice. The Walt Disney Company released a statement noting that it has, quote, been paying its cast members since the closure of the parks and has made the decision to extend paying hourly parks and resorts cast members through April 18th, end quote. A cast member reached out to us prior to this statement being released and informed us that no communication had been received from the Walt Disney Company since the domestic resorts closures in mid-March. We also learned that this statement was not communicated to cast members via email prior to it being released to the general public, which, Patrick, I just feel like it's kind of bad form on the Walt Disney Company, right, in not releasing this information to their employees before releasing it to the general public.
Yeah, I know that, or I want to believe that everyone is doing the best they can, but that feels like a big miss to leave your cast members and employees in the dark, so to speak.
It's also really interesting that that April 18th date was mentioned as kind of the end date for paying hourly parks and resorts cast members. I'm hoping that that will get extended should the parks remain closed for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, it's hard to know. I'm hoping that they're just sort of playing it in chunks of time. But I also understand that not everyone can just be paid indefinitely right now with less income coming in to other companies. It's hard to comment on, right?
Absolutely. We also learned last week that the Walt Disney World Swan and Dolphin Resort has temporarily fully closed. The Swan portion had remained open. Shades of Green, the Walt Disney World Resort for the military and their families, owned and operated by the Department of Defense, has also closed. And Aulani, a Disney resort and spa in Ko-Olina, Hawaii, has also temporarily closed. Both the Swan and Dolphin Resort and Aulani listed a reopening date of March 31st, though that seems unlikely now, and Shades of Green will reopen in mid-May. Disney Vacation Club also released a statement last week in regards to their new temporary cancellation policy. Quote, to make the process of changing reservations as smooth as possible, Disney Vacation Club has lifted the close-in reservation cancellation restrictions and will return any of your points back as vacation points or reservation points without placing them into holding. Borrowed points returned due to a cancellation of a Disney Vacation Club reservation will not be placed in holding and will be returned to the use year they were borrowed from. At this time, we have not made any changes to our points, banking, or expiration policy due to the impact this could have on future inventory availability. We understand this is of particularly concern for members with reservations affected by closures and or the COVID-19 situation who may be toward the end of their use year. We are, however, currently evaluating various options to assist members in this situation, but will need to delay any decisions until we better understand how long COVID-19 will impact our operations, end quote.
Boy, oh boy, based on that statement, I couldn't be a Disney Vacation Club member because I don't understand any of it.
That's so true, Patrick. I wasn't even sure what I was reading. Is it use year or is it use year? I have no idea what's going on. But for those that have an understanding of that system, good for you.
Yeah, you have one step in the right direction, whereas I am totally backwards on all of it.
For more information on DVC's response to the pandemic, visit DisneyVacationClub.com. Next, Disneyland Dapper Day Expo has been postponed until June. Previously, the Disneyland event was set for April 18th and 19th at the Disneyland Hotel. Dapper Day has been rescheduled for June 20th and 21st. No word yet on Walt Disney World's Dapper Day, which is scheduled to take place May 1st through May 3rd. And lastly, a bit of good news for furloughed employees of Landry's owned restaurants on Walt Disney World property. According to Yahoo Finance, Waiter, a leader in on-demand food ordering and delivery, has announced that it has expanded its partnership with Landry's. This national partnership includes adding new delivery markets in Florida. Effective immediately, Waiter will be offering jobs to Landry's employees who are faced with unemployment due to Landry's restaurant closures as delivery drivers for Waiter. Landry's owned restaurants in Walt Disney World include Rainforest Cafe restaurants in Disney's Animal Kingdom and Disney Springs, Yak and Yeti restaurant at Disney's Animal Kingdom, and T-Rex Cafe at Disney Springs.
It's super fun to see these companies that are getting very creative with how they operate going forward. And it's a relief to know that a lot of these furloughed or laid off employees are able to maybe pick up some extra hours in different ways of working.
I agree. I think it's so smart for Waiter to offer this option to Landry's employees because I think a lot of people want to work right now as a distraction. But I just hope that they're doing this with all safety measures. I just want to make sure that everyone is remaining safe and healthy.
Wipe down everything, folks.
Is that your pandemic mantra?
That was my mantra in the bedroom before, but now it is just in general.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
Hello.
If you've been launching the My Disney Experience app recently to see how long of a wait Flight of Passage is, A, you should probably give that up for a little bit. The dream is over for right now. and B, you may have noticed a few additions to the app. You can now play the Mickey and Minnie's Trivia Time game from home, which originally debuted with the opening of Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. And a new section to the app has been added called Disney Parks Artist Studio. This new section will provide short videos that give you a step-by-step instruction manual of how to draw Disney characters. Currently, the only video available is Mickey Mouse, #Year of the Mouse, but more videos are in the works. The video is done in sections, sort of like an Instagram story, with each section outlining a different step in the process.
I don't need this.
Oh.
I'm pretty skilled drawer already, Patrick, so I'm good, but thanks, Disney.
Wow, that was humbling, I guess? Nope, not at all.
And now for a Disney Plus update. On the heels of last week's announcement that Rosario Dawson has been cast as fan favorite character Osaka Tano in the Disney Plus series The Mandalorian, we have learned that actor Michael Biehn has also been cast as a key character in season 2 of the popular Star Wars series. Biehn starred in 80s sci-fi classics like The Terminator, Aliens, and The Abyss. Fans are speculating Biehn will play Dash Rendar, a smuggler who first appeared in The Shadows of the Empire in 1996.
Ooh.
Are you familiar with his work, Patrick?
Not at all.
He was a hot 80s guy.
Okay.
He was one of those hot 80s guys. Yeah. Really attractive.
I would look him up, but I'm using all of my devices right now to make this recording happen.
That's an excellent point. Moving on, in her first gig since stepping away from the royal life, Duchess Meghan Markle will be narrating the Disney Plus nature documentary Elephants. Markle's previous acting credits include Suits, and I'm not sure of anything else because I forgot to continue that notes section. Elephants will benefit the organization Elephants Without Borders. It is set to premiere on Disney Plus April 3rd in celebration of Earth Month. It's good that Duchess Meghan is finding work.
Yeah, in these troubling times.
Did you see that video of her and Prince Harry at the Lion King premiere in London when The Lion King came out last summer? And Prince Harry was trying to sell Meghan to Bob Iger. Like, he was like, she's an actress.
Yeah. That was, oh boy.
Apparently it paid off, or maybe this happened before that, but she got work. She got Disney work.
Good for her. I've been worried about her.
And lastly, Disney Plus premiered in the UK and Europe last week. The streaming service hit 5 million app downloads on launch day, according to a March 25th, 2020 Variety article. Quote, year to date in 2020, Disney Plus is the number 7 ranked non-gaming app by consumer spending worldwide, trailing Tinder. Okay, it's trailing Tinder, YouTube, Netflix, TikTok, Tencent Video, and IQIYI. I have no idea. Anyway, it's trailing those apps.
Wow.
The European launch of Disney Plus should push it higher in the rankings. Tinder, Patrick, is the number 1 non-gaming app by consumer spending worldwide.
People are looking for love, Adam. People are looking for love.
It's such a tough time to find it. I wish them all luck.
Grindr is the number 1 app in my house, Adam. On March 21st, Animal Kingdom welcomed its newest baby to the Disney World. A Hartman's zebra foal was born early in the morning to first-time mommy Heidi. The unnamed foal is a 65-pound girl. She was standing within 30 minutes and is very active. Mommy and baby are currently spending a lot of time bonding, which is super important for zebras. Fun fact, during this time, the baby will memorize the pattern on the mother's hind legs so she can recognize her from a distance. In a few weeks, the two will join the rest of the herd in the Kilimanjaro Safari's savannah. The new foal was the 3rd to be born in Disney World this year. Hartman's zebras are generally found in sub-Saharan Africa and are currently a vulnerable species due to habitat loss and hunting. The new foal was born as part of the species survival plan overseen by the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, which ensures responsible breeding and genetic diversity of thousands of species. If you head over to the Disney Parks blog, you can see a video of the new baby zebra and her mother. It is adorable. In other Bebe news, if you've seen the One Day at Disney documentary on Disney Plus, you might recall seeing Perry the porcupine undergo an ultrasound, revealing that she was great with porcupine. This past February 25th, the baby was born. Fun fact, baby porcupines are known as porcupette. Another interesting fact, prehensile-tailed porcupines have internal sex organs, so to determine the gender, they had to send the baby's teeny tiny quills to the lab for DNA testing, and it's a girl. Like the new zebra foal, this currently unnamed porcupet was born as part of the species survival plan. To learn more about the animals found in Walt Disney World, head over to disneyanimals.com. And to learn more about Disney's commitment to environmental conservation, head over to thewaltdisneycompany.com/environment. And I highly recommend following Dr. Mark Penning's Instagram. He is the vice president of Disney's Animals, Science, and Environment team. There you will find amazing pictures, stories, and facts about the animals being cared for in the park. You can follow him at Dr. Mark at Disney.
So neither of them have names yet.
Neither of the babies have names yet, no.
Do you think they're going to have an online contest again to name the two animals?
I would love that. Although generally they use the cast members in the parks to come up with the names, but I would be down. What's your name for the porcupine?
I would name the porcupine Pincushion.
Oh, clever.
Not really in theme with the kind of African Asian influence of Animal Kingdom.
Fair.
But I think it's cute.
That's fair.
What would you name it?
I would name it Quillo.
Come on.
From the movie Willow instead. It's Quillo.
You know what? Actually, that's not a terrible idea because cross-promotion now with the Disney Plus series possibly coming to fruition.
Always be promoting.
What would you name the zebra?
Gertrude. Yep, that feels
That's
right.
Exactly what I was going to say, Gertrude. Gertrude.
Hey, Adam.
Hey, Patrick.
How are we doing so far on this social distance recording?
I don't like it, Patrick. I don't like it one bit, but I think we're managing okay, and I hope everyone at home is enjoying it.
Hopefully we're putting the diz in social distancing. You know what I mean?
Oh, come on.
Listen. Well, Adam, this week was supposed to be our review of the new live-action version of Mulan.
What could have been?
That obviously did not happen. It was pushed back along with many other Disney titles that are in the works right now of production and release dates. So instead, we thought, let's do a Take 2 episode of the original Disney animated Mulan.
I think this was an excellent suggestion, Patrick, because this movie is so beloved by Disney fans. And I think it's a great opportunity for us to go back to the source, at least Disney's source, the OG Mulan, and do a little bit of homework to prepare ourselves for the live-action release whenever that comes out.
I have to say, I had a field day researching this movie and sort of the rich history that comes from the story of Mulan. It was super fun. I'm excited to talk about it.
I'm excited to hear about that because I did not research that. But what I did research was all of the zany casting that went on before they landed on the actual cast. So I'm excited to talk about that.
Yes, absolutely. So with that, what do you say we dive into just a little bit of background of the story of Mulan and how it came to be a Disney movie, and then I'll let you launch us into the casting and the crew and all that.
Let's get down to business.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
You're clever from far away. So Mulan was released in 1998. It was based on the children's book Fa Mulan, the story of a woman warrior by Robert D. Sansucci. But the story or legend of Mulan goes back all the way to the 6th century, as far as people know, appearing first in the Ballad of Mulan. She appears in many writings and books and poems, mostly in China. There was also a 1917 play called Mulan Joins the Army, and a silent film in 1927 called Hua Mulan Joins the Army. But of course, we are focusing on the Disney animated adaptation of Mulan, which was nominated for an Oscar for Best Music, Original Musical or Comedy, and the song Reflection was nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Song. And this is strange to me, but the end credit song, True to Your Heart, was nominated for a Grammy for Best Song Written for a Motion Picture. Why? Why was it nominated? It is not a good song.
Oh, that song.
It was such a jarring juxtaposition from the beautiful music in the movie, and then all of a sudden 98 Degrees and Stevie Wonder are invading my ears.
I mean, yeah, not to jump like straight to the end of the movie, but like it's this beautiful moment. She's reconciled with her family. There's a possible love interest there. And all of a sudden we hear the weird 90s music of 98
So
Degrees
weird.
and Stevie Wonder.
Yeah, that song, I believe, was supposed to be a part of a movie like a Goofy movie or something, not this one.
100% that is a Goofy movie song.
So moving on to a few more stats, the budget was an estimated $90 million, and it made just over $304 million worldwide. So not bad return. And I always like to look up the Rotten Tomatoes score for these movies that we do take twos of, and it is sitting at an 85% ranking, which I feel is pretty accurate.
Yes, that feels very accurate. Mulan is Disney's 36th animated feature, and it is the 9th animated film produced and released during the Disney Renaissance. Mulan was also the first of 3 features produced primarily at the Disney Animation Studio at Disney MGM Studios in Orlando. And Patrick, there's another first. This is our first take 2 of a Disney Renaissance film.
Oh, you're right. Interesting.
Let's move on into the creative team behind the film. It was directed by Tony Bancroft and Barry Cook. Tony Bancroft actually had no features prior to directing Mulan, which is crazy to me.
Absolutely. It's kind of weird, but he did a great job.
He was the animator for Beauty and the Beast. He actually provided the animation for Cogsworth in that film. He also provided the animation for Iago in Aladdin and Pumbaa in The Lion King. He provided animation for The Hunchback of Notre Dame, as well as providing the animation for Kronk in The Emperor's New Groove. His co-director, Barry Cook, previously directed the Roger Rabbit short Trail Mix-Up, and he went on to direct Arthur Christmas and Walking with Dinosaurs 3D. So, Patrick, 2 relatively unknown directors at the helm of this film.
Yeah, these guys were more animators and visual effects artists, which is an interesting grab to helm such an epic film like Mulan.
And it was shocking to me that Disney trusted them as much as they did. I mean, this was a Renaissance film. Disney was basically at its peak right now. And so you think they'd want to get everything just exactly right. And they gave the film over to these 2 unknown directors. It's surprising to me.
Yeah, same here. I wonder if they pitched something pretty amazing to get this job or how that all came to be. But it is an odd choice. But it turned out to be a delightful choice, I think.
Moving on, Mulan had so many writers, just all of the writers.
Roughly 1 million people worked on the story.
That's accurate, 1 million people. The screenplay was by Rita Hissau, I think. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Christopher Sanders, Philip Lazebnik, Raymond Singer, and Eugenia Bostwick Singer. Among those who provided additional story elements are Bernie Mattinson, who we know directed Mickey's Christmas Carol, Floyd Norman, who we talked about on the DL from episode 73, Patrick, and Linda Wolverton, who wrote Beauty and the Beast and Maleficent. The score was provided by Jerry Goldsmith with songs and lyrics by Matthew Wilder and David Zippel. Wilder is known for 1984's Break My Stride. Do you remember that song, Patrick?
Of course I do.
That is a feel-good one-hit wonder. I love that song.
Yeah, you're right.
It automatically transports me to the 80s anytime I hear it. And the lyricist, David Zippel, wrote the lyrics for Hercules, as we mentioned on a previous episode.
As I was looking up Jerry Goldsmith, who, as you said, wrote the score, he has composed over 250 movies and short films. It's insane, the breadth of work that he has. And he is an Oscar winner for Best Original Score for the movie The Omen.
Yeah, I guarantee all of our Tweedledees out there that you may not recognize his name or associate his name with the music, but you know his music. In fact, he composed the theme song for Soarin' Over California, and you can still hear that theme song today in Soarin' Around the World.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, now you do, Patrick. Now you do.
So before we move into the cast, Adam, I want to note that usually they credit people by sort of their call sheet and importance in the film. And in this film, strangely, the credits include Lea Solanga as 12th in the listings, and Ming-Na Wen is listed as 18th in the credits, which, what? Why? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, it's very strange. I can't determine if that was like by order of appearance in the film or how they came up with that placement.
Yeah, not a fan of that. But we are going to mention the two women who voiced Mulan first, aren't we, Adam?
I mean, I guess. No, we absolutely will. Of course we will.
So the speaking voice of Mulan is done by Ming-Na Wen, who you may remember her playing Melinda May in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. She was also on ER for a while. And she obviously, Adam, was Chun-Li in Street Fighter, the movie.
She absolutely was Chun-Li in Street Fighter. And she absolutely, Patrick, was Royal Trumpeter number 3 on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Great.
I mean, that's going way back.
And she now is, of course, a Disney legend.
She is a Disney legend, that Ming-Na Wen, and we love her.
Work.
Mulan's singing voice was provided by another Disney legend, as Patrick mentioned, Lea Salonga. Lea provided the singing voice for Jasmine, although she is uncredited in Aladdin for providing the singing voice for Jasmine.
We see you.
And she originated the role of Kim in Miss Saigon, one of Patrick's all-time favorite musicals.
Oh, man. I can't listen to her voice without fully breaking down into tears.
Patrick, did you know that the heat is on in Saigon?
I did. The girls are hotter than hell. I won't say the next lyric because I don't want to use the bleep button. Moving on, we have Miguel Ferrer playing Shan Yu, the villain in the movie. Miguel Ferrer is best known for roles in Twin Peaks, the movie Blank Check, Will and Grace, Law and Order, Psych, Medium, etc. Basically, if you've seen a TV show in the 80s, 90s, and today, you have seen him somehow, somewhere.
You failed to mention that he's part of the Beverly Hills Chihuahua cinematic universe.
I don't know if I failed to mention it more than I credited him for not mentioning it.
This guy's fabulous. He's an excellent voice for a villain. He has that deep, kind of gravelly voice.
Yeah, he's kind of an acting chameleon. He does a lot of funny work, and he does a lot of serious and almost frightening work as well.
Next up, the role of Mushu was voiced by comedian Eddie Murphy. We all know Eddie Murphy from the Shrek films and The Nutty Professor and Coming to America and Beverly Hills Cop. And one of my favorites, The Golden Child from the 80s. Patrick, have you ever seen The Golden Child?
I have. I think I've seen everything Eddie Murphy has done. I really enjoy watching him.
Did you see The Haunted Mansion?
I did see The Haunted Mansion.
Did it ruin The Haunted Mansion for you? That's what I'm most concerned about, is that if I'm going to see it, I'm going to associate The Haunted Mansion with the movie and not just enjoy the ride then.
No, they're very different. I don't think that you have to... No, there's no worry there.
Okay.
In fact, you have to just disassociate one from the other.
I don't know if I can do it.
Oh, well then... then you are a simple person, Adam, and maybe you shouldn't watch it.
I am a simple person.
Moving on, we have Pat Morita playing the Emperor. Morita is one of my favorite roles in any movie ever. He plays Mr. Miyagi in The Karate Kid. What an iconic role.
In all of the Karate Kids. The Karate Kid cinematic universe, Patrick. I'm going to use cinematic universe a lot in this take two.
Great.
The role of Shang was voiced by B.D. Wong. B.D. Wong plays Henry Wu in Jurassic Park and Jurassic World. He has appeared in Mr. Robot, and he played Howard Weinstein in Father of the Bride and Father of the Bride Part 2.
I love him. He's such a good actor. I could watch him in anything.
He is. And you know what I think? I think he actually starred in Flower Drum Song on Broadway with Lea Salonga. I think they were in that together.
I think you're right. I know that he played the title role in M. Butterfly when that first came out on Broadway. I wish I had seen that.
Yeah, I think he won the Tony Award for that too.
Speaking of Broadway, Adam, moving on, we have Donny Osmond providing the singing voice for Shang, or Li Shang, as he's known in the movie sometimes too. Donny Osmond is known for being Donny Osmond. Of course, most people will know him from playing Joseph in Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat on Broadway. He also had a long-running show in Vegas with his sister, Donnie and Marie.
Did you happen to see him as Joseph in Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, Patrick?
I did not see him perform it, but I saw like the future Osmond kids playing all of the children in a Broadway tour of it.
Oh, interesting. I saw a tour of it as well, and he was in it.
Oh, wow.
And he was in a loincloth, and he was looking pretty good. I mean, he was probably like 30 or older by that time, but he looked great. He sounded great, too.
Nice.
Mulan's grandmother Fa, was voiced by June Foray. We've mentioned June a couple of times on the podcast previously. She provided the voice for Rocky in Rocky and Bullwinkle and Granny in many Looney Tunes cartoons and shows. She also provided the voice for Grandma Gummy in Gummy Bears, and she's an uncredited voice of a mermaid in Peter Pan, and she was the voice of Lucifer, maybe the sounds of Lucifer in Cinderella.
It's true. She also voiced Ma Beagle in the animated TV show DuckTales.
Woo, woo. She's quite the voice actor.
Yeah, her credits are like in the thousands, basically, of the amount of work she's done. Moving on, I actually love this credit. Playing the singing voice for Grandmother Fa is Marnie Nixon. Now, most notably, Ms. Nixon provided the singing voice for Audrey Hepburn in My Fair Lady, Natalie Wood in West Side Story, and Deborah Kerr in The King and I. Amazing. I did not know that she did all of those roles.
An incredible talent and an unrecognized talent in Hollywood history. I mean, now we know about it, but, back then she was really uncredited for these amazing singing voices that she provided for these top-notch Hollywood actresses.
I heard a fun story that Rita Moreno in West Side Story did not know that Natalie Wood's voice was going to be dubbed over with Marnie Nixon's voice for the singing, and so it was a surprise. When they premiered the movie, they were like, I'm sorry, whose voice is that right now?
Do you think Rita Moreno, when she heard like the Natalie Wood singing track, was like, oh God, this movie's going to tank?
What are we even doing here? Yeah.
Mulan's father, Fa Zhu, was voiced by Soon-Tek Oh. Soon-Tek Oh appeared in Beverly Hills Ninja, The Man with the Golden Gun, and played various characters on the television series MASH. And Mulan's mother, Fa Li, was voiced by Frida Foshen. Frida has appeared in the films Ad Astra and the television series Franklin and Bash, Everwood, and ER. And one interesting thing, Patrick, I noticed was that a lot of the people in this movie have appeared on ER. And I think that's probably a stereotype because they're of Asian descent and they're playing like medical professionals. But there's a lot of people in this cast that have appeared on that television series.
That's true. Going even further with that statement, I feel like a lot of them, this may be one of their bigger credits. And because they oftentimes were playing when a TV show in the 70s, 60s, 80s needed an, quote, Asian person, unquote, they were just sort of plugged into those roles. All of them are amazing performers and actors and do a wonderful job in this movie. But researching the history behind, as you mentioned earlier, the casting and the casting choices and their history in acting is a little of a downer.
Absolutely, yeah.
Speaking of, along those lines, non-Asian actress Miriam Margolyes voiced the matchmaker. And Miriam is best known for playing maybe not best known, but she's very widely known for playing Professor Sprout in the Harry Potter movies. And she also played the nurse in Romeo and Juliet, Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet, to be specific.
She's a well-known character actor.
Non-Asian character actor.
That's right. And speaking of that, kind of moving on to the Three Stooges of the film, the character of Yao was voiced by Tony Award winner Harvey Fierstein, also a non-Asian actor. And when approached for the role, Harvey Fierstein actually declined the role, saying it should go to an actor of Asian descent. But when he saw that a majority of the roles and a majority of the featured roles were covered by Asian actors, he actually then accepted the role. As I said, Harvey Fierstein voices Yao. Harvey Fierstein wrote and starred in Torch Song Trilogy, which was a film but was a Broadway show prior to that. He's also appeared in Independence Day and probably is most notably known as Edna Turnblad in Broadway's Hairspray, for which he won a Tony Award as well, and for Mrs. Doubtfire.
Harvey Fierstein.
Matchmaker, make me a match.
Yeah, here's what I'll say about that story about him turning down and then accepting the role. It's a nice story, but in the back of my head, I'm like, well, if you really believed that, you still wouldn't have taken the role because it didn't need to be Harvey Fierstein, right? It could have been not anybody, but it could have been. There are many actors who are Asian who could have filled that role.
I was thinking about this a lot while I was watching the movie, and the only way I can relate it to my experience is kind of through a gay filter. And you know how we have like quote unquote gay movies where there are often very stereotypical characters involved, and I'm of two minds about it. I'm like, well, they didn't need to like dive right into that stereotype. But at the same time, I'm like, well, at least it's representation. So for me, looking at Mulan, I'm very curious how a person of Chinese descent or of Asian descent views the film. Like, there are stereotypical elements absolutely involved in it, but also, like, is it nice, especially at the time when the film came out, to have that representation?
Yeah, that's fair. One thing I'm glad that they didn't do is use that sort of stereotypical Asian voice. Do you know what I mean when I say that?
Yeah, there's one character where I'm like, but the rest of them, yeah.
A little bit. And I think that character is Asian, though, if you're thinking with the same person that I am. And so I guess it's less offensive. Yep. But they didn't go down that path, thank goodness.
Going back to the cast, Patrick, and kind of going back to those Three Stooges that I mentioned earlier, we also have Ling, who was voiced by Getty Watanabe. Getty voiced Professor Bob Chen on Kim Possible. He also appeared in ER, but he's probably best known as Long Duck Dong in 16 Candles.
Oh dear. Oh, the 80s.
That's where we get back into those stereotypes, right? And his singing voice was provided by composer Matthew Wilder. And then last we have Chien Po, who was voiced by Jerry Tondo. Jerry Tondo has very few credits on his IMDb profile, but he did appear in the television series Beauty and the Beast in the 80s. Did you watch that, Patrick?
I do remember watching that with Linda Hamilton.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
That's funny.
The Beast's name was Vincent, and he lived in the sewers under New York, but they called them the tunnels.
Wow. Are you watching that show right now, Adam?
No, but my mom and I were so into it. It was bonkers.
Moving on in the cast, we have the delightful gay icon George Takei playing the first ancestor, who is the head of all of the ancestors who are awoken toward the beginning of the movie. George Takei is, of course, as I said, famous for being George Takei once again. But he also played Sulu in the Star Trek TV series, which I think Bart believes is Star Wars, right?
That's right. If you go back to our last episode, Bart definitely confuses the two. And you're absolutely right, Patrick. He is a gay icon. He is so outspoken and just such a representative for our community. We love him.
Lastly, for the main part of the cast, but there is one more mention that I think you want to do. We have James Hong playing Chi Fu, who is the military advisor in the movie. He was basically in every single TV show and movie that happened since the 1950s that needed an Asian man. He was in Zorro, Bonanza, General Hospital, I Dream of Jeannie, All in the Family, Taxi, Friends. But I know him best from a movie that I watched 1,000 times when I was little. He was in Big Trouble in Little China as David Lo Pan.
I have never seen that.
It is a mess of a movie, but it has Kim Cattrall in it. So
that's what I was going to say. Wasn't it like one of Kim Cattrall's first credits?
It was pretty early on in her career, for sure.
Oh, I suppose it was probably after Mannequin. Right?
I don't know if it was before or after, actually. It was around the same time, though.
James Hong also appeared in The Golden Child, the Eddie Murphy movie I mentioned earlier. And Patrick, he is part of the Kung Fu Panda cinematic universe.
Oh, I have never seen those movies, so I didn't know that.
Either have I, but I hear they're really delightful.
Okay. You said it with such confidence as though you were very in the know about it.
Thanks, IMDb.
Yeah, you just know how to read instead.
And last but not least, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the fabulously talented Frank Welker, who provides the animal noises for Khan, Mulan's horse, and Creaky, the lucky cricket. Frank Welker provided the voice for the Cave of Wonders in both the animated Aladdin and the live-action version of Aladdin. He also provided the voice of Abu and Raja in the animated version of Aladdin. He voices Megatron in the Transformers cinematic universe. He also provides the voice of Fred in Scooby-Doo and provides the sounds for Bullseye in the Toy Story cinematic universe.
Amazing. He's done everything.
He has. He is so talented. I can't believe that many noises and various differing noises can come out of one person.
Yeah, it's always funny to me when they use a person to do an animal noise. It's like, don't you just have an audio recording of an animal? But I guess he brings a personality to those sounds, though, which is such a talent.
That was so well said, Patrick. You're absolutely right. It's all about that personality behind that sound.
I know I'm very well spoken. So that sort of rounds out the cast of the film. It's quite a large cast. We didn't mention a couple of people, but they didn't have a huge role in the movie, and so we sort of left them out. But it was an enormous cast. This is a pretty big, epic movie. A lot of moving parts to it.
It's also interesting, as we noted, that so many actors didn't provide their own singing voices. And I feel like we just don't have that in Disney movies anymore. Like now it's the same voice providing the vocal track as well as the like kind of singing track.
That was kind of a big thing in the 80s and 90s, that they just got bigger names to be the actors, and then they got whoever they could to do the singing voices. And nowadays it's like, if you can't do both, you're not in consideration.
That's why I'm never in consideration for a role.
I sort of wish they had done that for Emma Watson, though, because I didn't love her singing voice for Belle.
Yeah, she definitely could have used a Marnie Nixon. Well, Patrick, let's move on and talk about how we felt watching this movie. When was the last time you saw Mulan?
It had been at least 10 years, I think, for me since I fully dived into it. It was never on heavy rotation for me. It wasn't one of my absolute favorite movies, but that sort of changed for me with this viewing. I actually like it a lot more than I remembered liking it. What about you?
The last time I saw Mulan was probably a year or two ago. I had watched it relatively recently. And like you, it was never one of my favorites, and definitely one I wouldn't watch on repeat. But after having checked in with it now a couple of times, it did kind of breathe new life into it. And I saw so much more that I did not see, as a late teenager when this film first came out.
Yeah, what struck me was how absolutely beautiful the movie is. The animation and the color story that they're using, it is just beautiful. There's no other word for it for me. I was stunned by it, actually.
And it set off so well right at the start of the movie with that beautiful kind of brush painting on the rice paper and the beautiful orchestrations by Jerry Goldsmith. Like, you just know immediately that you're in for this kind of very lush theatrical experience.
Yeah, that's a great word for it, lush.
And as you're mentioning too, I just noticed like in the animation of it too, how they kind of pulled influences from Chinese culture and kind of Chinese illustrations that you had seen, like ancient Chinese illustrations, particularly like whenever there would be smoke or dust or the snow during the avalanche, like would always be this kind of swirling brush stroke as opposed to like a more realistic representation of it. And I found that really beautiful and kind of really kept you in the right tone of the film, like just little touches like that.
Absolutely. I was really pleasantly surprised by how unoffensive the movie was. This could so easily, in 1998, have turned very offensive. And I'm sure that there are many moments in the movie that are problematic that maybe I, as someone who is not as immersed in the Asian culture, would not have picked up on. But for my money, they did a pretty great job of paying respect to the culture.
Yeah, I know they sent a number of the animators over to China to like do research before the film was made. And I can only imagine how that influenced their take on the story and how much more respect they had them when they came back to start working on the film and really pay homage to the culture.
Yeah, it took them about 4 or 5 years overall from pre-production to release to really research and produce this movie, which is kind of a long time for Disney animated movies. They try to pump them out pretty quickly, but this one took quite a while to get right.
Did you watch some of the behind-the-scenes features on Disney Plus about the making of Mulan?
I did not.
I highly recommend it. There's not a ton there, but there's some really interesting takes about where the story was going before they settled on the final storyline. And it is interesting. Like, the direction it was going didn't really seem at all like the story we've come to know and love.
Yeah, I'm very glad they landed on the story that they did, because it is quite close to the history of Mulan's story in time. It's always sort of that same woman joining the military, and I believe some of the original ideas were more of a love story or less about the military, and so I'm glad that they came to their senses and landed on the correct story.
And it feels so great that it's not only a story that fully embraces the Chinese culture, but also is very pro-woman, which feels kind of like it was one of the first animated films to do that, where it was a female lead character. But this time, it wasn't necessarily about finding a romantic love interest. It led to that eventually, not finding one, but coming across one. it really was about her on her own journey and her own struggles within that journey.
And with that, sort of the songs that they used, if you take them out of the movie, they almost sound like, oh my gosh, that is horribly offensive. Why would you sing about that? But in context of the movie, they're actually quite clever in the way that they are sort of making fun of the patriarchy, basically.
The musical numbers are great. I think there are limited. I would say there's not as many musical numbers as there would be kind of in a more traditional Disney animated musical feature. But I do really love the songs in the film. I wish that Reflection was longer. I timed it out in the movie and it's only about 1:20. Like that's the length of the entire song. It was originally intended to be a much longer segment in the film, but I just love that song and I wish it was a longer moment in the film. And we should also talk about just the score provided by Jerry Goldsmith. I particularly love, as 90s as it may be, the track called Mulan's Decision, which is the song that's playing underneath the scenes where she's cutting off her hair and putting on her father's armor. Like it's really powerful and moving, despite the fact that there's a complete 1990s synthesizer underneath it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's very sweeping, all of the music in the movie, and it ties so well together with the songs and what's happening in the movie. He just did an amazing job.
And I'll Make a Man Out of You. I love that song.
It's not one of my favorites. It is very like catchy and moving, and I will run to it actually because it's got a good beat and rhythm to it. But yeah, a lot of people love it. It's not one of my favorites though.
I love it because of everything that you said, and also because Li Shang takes off his shirt beforehand.
Fair.
And he's shirtless throughout.
That's fair. I actually loved Honor to Us All a lot better, the women's song in the beginning of the movie. I thought that was so fun and clever, but also like really well orchestrated.
Oh my gosh. At the end when all the townspeople are singing, it is like the harmonies are so tight and beautiful.
It's so great. It almost reminded me of the opening song in Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, I could see that. Yeah.
Just the way it all sort of comes together.
Along that same line, the song A Girl Worth Fighting For totally reminds me of There Ain't Nothing Like a Dame from South Pacific. I feel like it had to have taken influence from that.
Oh, that's a really good point. Going back to Li Shang removing his shirt, Adam, there's a lot of male nudity in this movie.
Thank goodness. You're talking about when they go for the swim at night?
Yes.
We need more of that in Disney films. Don't you feel like we need more of that?
I do. I don't know if it's because we have a gay podcast about Disney, but like I caught on to a lot of sort of gender and LGBTQ plus themes of the movie that weren't overt necessarily, but definitely noticeable for me anyways. I mean, let's just call it spade a spade. Mulan is like the OG drag king, right?
Yeah, I mean, she is the first Disney drag king.
But also, like, her relationship with Li Shang, though, didn't necessarily get romantic, obviously, but there was definitely, like, they hinted at sort of an attraction of some kind of bromance a little bit sort of beginning to bloom between the two of them, which was super interesting, especially when she revealed herself as a woman, that he then went through those motions of sort of like, oh, I'm so angry about this because you tricked me, to like, oh, but I still have some feelings for you. It was an interesting mix of emotions, I guess, that he was going through via his relationship with Mulan.
I find it kind of hot, to be honest. Like, I would have liked more of an exploration of like his conflicted feelings for Mulan, kind of like a 12th Night situation for anyone who's a fan of that Shakespeare show. But I'm curious to see how they're going to explore this in the live action movie. I know there's not a love interest per se in the live action movie, or is there, Patrick? Is it just not Li Shang? It's a different love interest?
From what I know, and I could be very wrong about this, but there is no Li Shang character. There is a new general of the army, and then there is somebody within the army that she has a camaraderie with, I believe.
I really hope that that's explored in the live action movie, because I do find that very appealing, like that storyline of a guy kind of falling in love with another guy, but being very confused by his feelings for him. And I want that to be the case in the movie. I'm sure it won't be, but I want that to be explored in the live action film.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can explore that in our minds all we want to, right?
You're right. All that fan fiction we'll be writing after the movie.
Absolutely. Another thing that I actually bumped on in regard to this conversation is the term cross-dresser that they used in the movie. That stood out so jarringly to me when it was said in the movie. It was like, oh my goodness, where are we right now?
Yeah, I bumped on that too. It was really unexpected. It was the first time crossdresser was mentioned in a Disney film, and it almost caused the film to acquire a higher rating than the G rating. I think it was almost a PG film just because of that one reference of crossdresser.
Yeah, it just sort of goes to show you the time in which this movie was made. Whereas that would have been a lot more of an uproar from the LGBTQ community when they heard that phrase. Because I definitely, like, my haunches were up a little bit when I heard it.
You know what else kind of jumped out at me when I was watching this, unrelated to what we were just talking about, was the fact that, like, Shang basically gives Mulan an out, right? Like at the end of I'll Make a Man Out of You, she's kind of failed at all these tasks that he's kind of given her. And he basically hands her horse's reins and says, like, get out of here. But she then takes it upon herself to, like, figure out how to climb the pole and get the arrow out of the top of the pole. And it never occurred to me before that she could have gone home and she would have had, like, a very normal life, but it just speaks to her level of dedication that she actually stuck that out. I don't know, maybe that's a very obvious point, but that never registered with me before. And so that really struck me as a very deep moment in the film.
Yeah, she has a lot of loyalty for her family and her country and her town, basically. It reminded me a lot of the beginning of the movie Captain America, where he's just sort of this unexpected hero that everyone sort of disregards and is like, no, you're not physically accurate for the army, or you're not a viable candidate. But his dedication and his loyalty are what proved to be his strongest suits.
Another thing that really jumped out at me was how similar Mushu and the genie from Aladdin are.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I guess I never really paid that much attention to it, but I think Mushu owes a great deal to the genie, or maybe I should say that Eddie Murphy owes a great deal to Robin Williams, because those two characters seem like the same type of character, the kind of confidant, and they're both comedians in the film, right? And I feel like without the genie, we would have never had Mushu. It almost feels like they were trying to create Genie 2.0 with Mushu in this movie.
Yeah, they wanted to recreate that magic. And to great effect, though, I feel like it could have gone very south. But he is such a great comedian, I think, that he landed it a little softer than the genie's approach to comedy. He was certainly, a fast talker and very witty, but he didn't go full genie balls to the wall on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That could have gone very wrong very quickly. But the fact that they kind of pulled back a little bit and kept Mushu a little bit more restrained, I think was so smart. But again, Eddie Murphy has so many of those kind of like dry throwaway lines in this movie that are really, really funny. And you almost miss them if you're not paying full attention to the scenes that he's in.
And I love the parallels between Mushu and Mulan in that they're both characters who nobody believes in them, basically, and all they want to do is prove themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you find yourself at all getting emotional watching this movie?
I don't know about emotional, but it definitely resonated and landed with me. It wasn't a movie that I would start crying during, but I definitely could pull elements of representations in my own life out of it, I guess. What about you?
I was surprised. I did tear up a couple of times, in particular when everyone in the Forbidden City is bowing down to Mulan after the Emperor kind of gives her his blessing and approves of everything that she's done. And I also teared up a little bit when she was reunited with her father at the end of the movie too. I just thought both of those scenes were so touching to me. And earned, too. Those moments are very earned in this movie. In particular, her reunion with her father, when she gives him the medal that the Emperor gave her and the sword, and he just tosses them aside and chooses to hug her. It just proves that it's not about the honor on the family anymore. It's just about her being safe and home and him expressing his love for her.
Yeah, the payoff at the end of the movie is definitely a good one and earned, like you said, and not about being a hero necessarily, but it's about getting respect, I guess, and feeling the love that you wanted to feel and being seen as an equal.
And then we hear True to Your Heart.
What a terrible, terrible transition from the movie to the credits. Maybe that's why it didn't get 95% on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's why. Well, let's move on to some fun facts about the film, Patrick. As I mentioned at the top of this segment, there are some pretty weird things associated with this film. So, for instance, I'm just going to mention that Joe Pesci was originally cast as Mushu, but the filmmakers ultimately decided that his voice was not right for the character.
Yeah, that would have been pretty jarring.
And just grating the whole film. Joe Pesci, he would have been talking. I don't know. I can't do a Joe Pesci, but you get the idea.
That was 100% accurate.
Also interesting to note regarding the cast, Tia Carrera, who appeared in Wayne's World, was the first choice to voice Mulan, and also Helen Hunt was considered to voice Mulan.
Weird. That doesn't seem right.
I mean, she fits into like her fame level there, I guess, with like Mad About You and like the success of that series, but obviously would have been a very poor choice demographically, right?
Yeah. Instead, she did Twister. So who won?
So thank you, Helen Hunt, I guess. Bruce Willis was originally cast as Li Shang. That's also an interesting thing to note. Bruce Willis as Li Shang.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
Would they still have needed Donny Osmond, or does Bruce Willis have a surprising vocal range?
He did have a band, didn't he, Bruce Willis?
It sounds exactly right. I'm not certain, but it sounds like exactly right.
I'm pretty sure he did or does probably still. Who knows? Well, I have some interesting facts about the movie as well, Adam. So here's a fun thing about Mulan's name. So in the movie, Mulan's family name is Fa, which is the Cantonese pronunciation of Hua, which is the Mandarin pronunciation, both of which are the word for flower. And Mulan means magnolia, which you see a ton of in the movie. And when she gives herself her drag king name, basically, Hua Ping means flower vase. And this is a Chinese term for an effeminate man.
The layers behind her name.
I know.
Wow.
Another fun thing I picked up on was that Mulan calls her dog Little Brother, which I think is likely a reference to the original story of Mulan, where she actually had a baby brother, but they eliminated that character for this movie. And then I wrote down a couple of fun princess facts about this movie. So Mulan was only the second princess to have both parents alive for the entire movie, the first being Sleeping Beauty, and then following up after Mulan, Rapunzel, Merida, and Moana are the other ones. The rest of the princesses only have one parent or no parent.
Her parents survived the Disney curse. They're both alive.
It's true. It's true. And then the last one I had was, out of all of the Disney princesses, Mulan has killed the most people.
Yeah, I was reading that fact, and oh my God, it's in the thousands, Patrick.
Yeah, it's
hilarious. When you
hilarious.
consider the avalanche that she causes. Yeah, I mean, that's thousands of Huns that she just slaughtered or murdered or suffocated, quite honestly.
Yeah, Mulan has a big body count.
Well, that's not surprising. It is the first Disney animated film to openly deal with warfare. So we should have known. We should have known.
True story.
And one last notable fact, Patrick, is that Mulan marked Disney's first ever DVD release. It was released in November 1999. And of course, it was Walt Disney Animation Studios' last musical film to release on VHS. So it kind of straddled the line there of the first DVD release and the last VHS release.
And for those younger Tweedledees listening at home, a VHS is a big black box, I guess, that you had some tape inside of it, and you put it into a VCR, and that's how you watched your movies, with a little grainy picture to it.
And they came in those giant shell cases. Remember those, Patrick?
I do. I have a notebook that looks like one of those cases, but you open it up and it's just a notebook inside.
That's right. They live on in Disney merchandise.
It's true. And most kids have no idea what the reference is.
That's true. Well, Patrick, what are your final thoughts on this take two of Mulan?
I was really surprised by how many new things I noticed in this movie, giving it a second chance. I'm so glad we decided to do this take two of it, because I think, as I said earlier in the episode, I love this movie more now than I did prior to watching it again.
I totally agree. I found new appreciation for this film, something that I didn't really experience the first time I watched it way back in the 90s. But now seeing it as an adult, I really appreciate the level of artistry behind the animation. The music really stands out as something that's so special in a Disney film, despite the final song that we hear. We'll just disregard that. And I have a new appreciation for the fact that they really embrace the Chinese culture and really embrace the idea of a strong female lead who was doing what she thought was right for her family and not necessarily having the underlying plot line of tying it to a man or like looking for a man in her life.
Yeah, I was just going to say that this was sort of the turning point for Disney in which they stopped using their female characters and princesses as just sort of a plot point for the man to be the hero. This is finally a story in which the woman is definitely the hero of the movie.
And being in charge of her own destiny, too, right? Like, she didn't have to do this for her family. And as I mentioned earlier, she was given an out by Li Shang, but yet she still chose to fight her own battles and kind of chase her own horizon, right? Like, she wasn't going to be tied down by the constrictions of society. She really had her own plan for her life.
Yeah, that's well said. You see early on in the movie that she isn't quite fitting in with this very feminine culture that she's supposed to be a part of. It just never felt right for her. And you see her really blossom as a person the more she embraces the duality of masculine versus feminine.
Well, we would love to know your thoughts on Mulan. As always, you can reach out to us on social media. That's Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at GDTD Podcast.
Or you can always leave us an email or a voice memo at info@gaysdothed.com. You know, Adam, I think the greatest gift we got out of the movie Mulan is the launching of Christina Aguilera's career. Don't you feel?
Oh, what a blessing.
Talk about gay icons.
She really does owe all of us who went to see Mulan royalties, maybe, or some kind of financial compensation because we made her.
Yeah, you know what, Christina, you're welcome.
You might say we made her that much stronger.
Oh, dear.
Hey, Patrick.
Hey, Adam.
Patrick, I need out of this closet. I need out of this closet.
Come out wherever you are.
Oh, that was kind of creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick, we've reached the end of the episode. That means, of course, it is time for Quick D. And this week, we are exploring Quick D Imagine Queering.
Ooh, I like it.
For those at home, Quick D Imagine Queering is when Patrick and I draw the name of an attraction from Walt Disney World and we gay it up.
That's right. We throw a rainbow right in its face.
We provide a whole new layer of fabulousness to the attraction. And per usual, I'm watching it on FaceTime right now, as a matter of fact. Patrick has pulled down his Chewbacca mug, which contains the names of all of the attractions we have not yet Imagine Queered at Walt Disney World. And he is going to do the honor of drawing the name of the attraction. Okay, Chewbacca's face is really up in FaceTime right now. And quite frankly, Patrick, I prefer it to your face.
That's fair. Here, if I do this, is that better?
There we go.
I just hold it right in front of my face.
Thank
this
you.
is really, really riveting for all of our listeners at home, this visual gag that I'm doing. So, Adam, do you want to reach into Chewbacca's mug, or do you want me to do that?
Come on, you know I can't do that. I'm miles away from you right now.
Well, okay, fine. Here, do you want some Foley work? I'm going to ruffle the papers.
Oh, I can hear it. Yeah. There you go.
Again, just groundbreaking podcasting here on Gaze Do the D.
For sure. We're for sure going to win a Webby or whatever award they give to podcasts.
Well, I think we have our work cut out for us, Adam. We are doing Primeval Whirl.
Oh, we just talked about this. What was it, 2 episodes ago?
I think so. It's one of the rides that you've never been on, actually.
Yeah, I would Primeval Hurl on it.
Well, I think we have to rename it Primeval Girl.
Primeval Girl. I love that. I love that.
It's about drag dinosaurs, right?
Fantastic. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so what are some drag dinosaurs that we'll encounter? I'm thinking right now, like Triceratops.
Triceratops.
Mm-hmm.
Stegosaurus. Stegosaurus. There we go.
That was quite the struggle.
Stegosaurus. What about I'm out of dinosaurs already.
How about Tyrannosaurus Rex?
Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Mm-hmm.
How about Brontosaurus? Oh, wow. It's so easy, Patrick. All of them can just have yes at the end of them.
Oh, this was a real mistake. A real mistake.
So aren't the carts on Primeval World, aren't they like in the shape of a dinosaur, right? Like they're the shape of a Triceratops, is that right?
No, you're thinking of Triceratops Spin.
Oh, so what do the cars look like on Primeval World?
They're like little buckets that are open on one side with a lap bar that goes down on you. Sort of like it's like a mousetrap ride, basically.
Sure. Okay. Well, there went my idea for dressing up the cars as like various drag icons.
No, we can't do that anymore. But we can keep naming drag queen dinosaurs.
What about instead of Iguanodon, we can have like Iconodon?
Iguanodana?
Iguanodana? This is really testing my knowledge of fourth grade science.
Is that the only time you ever heard of a dinosaur? In fourth grade, and then you just stopped your dinosaur exploration?
No, I actually did have a college class called Life and Death of the Dinosaurs, but it was like at 7 a.m. in the morning, and I just could not, Patrick. I could not.
Got it. I kind of love this. I love the idea of a dinosaur drag show on a ride.
The pre-show could be hosted by Evie Oddly in her dinosaur costume from RuPaul's Drag Race.
Perfection. What are some songs you might hear that might correlate?
How about Hey Sabertooth Kitty Girl by RuPaul?
Wow.
Does that now work?
That's a stretch, Adam. You are really just throwing words into other sentences that don't really belong.
How about I will survive? Just kidding. No, I won't. There's a huge meteor careening towards Earth.
Yeah, it's more of a question. I will survive? Maybe that old song, It's the End of the World. It's the end of the world as we know it.
Embraced by drag queens across the land. How many times have I heard that song at a drag show?
I mean, at least zero.
That's right. I think in keeping with the actual technology of the ride, perhaps you're given a cocktail before you get on it, and you're just that much more turnt or spun by the time you get off the ride.
You find a way to implement the word turnt and cocktail into every single Imagine Queering ride that we do, and I applaud you for your efforts.
Thank you so much. I want the Tweedledees to think I'm at least somewhat cool, so if I can drop some of the lingo in on any given episode, I feel really proud of myself.
Problem is, those terms were used about 5 years ago. Are you a dinosaur on this ride, Adam?
I think you know the answer to that.
Madam Saurus Rex.
Madam Saurus Rex.
That will do it for this episode of Gays Do the D. Thanks for listening. To become a patron of the podcast, visit our website at gaysdothed.com/donate. For a donation of any amount, you can receive exclusive Gays Do the D content and help us continue to bring you the very best Disney news and discussion. Continue the conversation after this episode on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at GDTD Podcast. Submit your questions or show ideas to info@gaysdothed.com. Have a great week, everybody. See ya real soon.